The once vibrant city of Cinderia now lay in ruins, its streets strewn with the debris of a crushing defeat. Alara, a young woman of the Xandarian people, watched in horror as the Kraxan invaders swept through her home, their advanced weaponry and sheer numbers overwhelming the best efforts of her people's defenders. Alara had always known that her people were no match for the ruthless Kraxan Empire. The Xandarians, a peaceful civilization focused on science, art, and the preservation of their rich cultural heritage, had never prepared for the onslaught of an interstellar war. And now, as she witnessed her fellow citizens cowering in fear, their once proud spirits broken, Alara felt a deep sense of powerlessness wash over her. For years, the Xandarians had coexisted with the Kraxan, engaging in cautious trade and diplomatic negotiations. But the Kraxan, driven by a relentless thirst for expansion and conquest, had grown impatient. Without warning, their massive warships had descended upon Xandaria, raining down destruction and subjugating the population with brutal efficiency. Alara had seen her friends and neighbors gunned down in the streets, their bodies left to rot in the open as a grim warning to those who dared to resist. The Xandarian military, though valiant in their efforts, were simply no match for the Kraxan's advanced technology and sheer numbers. One by one, the beacons of hope had been extinguished, leaving the people of Xandaria with a choking sense of despair. As Alara made her way through the rubble-strewn alleys, she couldn't help but wonder if this was the end for her people. The Kraxan occupation had already stripped them of their freedom, their dignity, and their way of life. What more could these merciless invaders take from them? Clutching a small, ancient communication device in her trembling hands, Alara knew that she had to act. This archaic piece of technology, a relic from a time long forgotten, was the last hope for her people. It was a communication beacon, designed to transmit a distress signal across the vast expanse of space, a cry for help that might be heard by some distant civilization. Alara had never before activated the device, for the Xandarians had always believed in their ability to resolve their own conflicts. But now, with her world crumbling around her, she had no other choice. Steeling her nerves, she keyed in the activation sequence, her voice quivering as she recorded her desperate plea. "This is Alara of the Xandarian people," she began, her words cutting through the eerie silence of the deserted city streets. "Our home has been invaded by the Kraxan Empire, and our people are being crushed under their oppressive rule. We are a peaceful people, with no means to defend ourselves against their advanced technology and overwhelming military might." Pausing to take a shuddering breath, Alara continued, her eyes brimming with tears of anguish and hopelessness. "We are powerless to stop the Kraxan's relentless advance. Our cities lie in ruins, our people are suffering, and we have nowhere to turn. I beseech any civilization, any people who may hear this message, to come to our aid. We need your help to reclaim our freedom and our way of life." With a trembling finger, Alara activated the communication beacon, sending her desperate plea hurtling into the vast, uncaring expanse of space. As the device hummed to life, she couldn't help but wonder if her message would ever reach anyone, if there was anyone out there who would be willing to risk everything to come to the aid of her beleaguered people. For now, all Alara could do was wait, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and the faintest glimmer of hope. The fate of her world, of her people, rested on the slim chance that someone somewhere would hear her call and answer it. Thousands of light years away, on a remote human colony world, a young man named Ethan was tinkering with his latest engineering project when the faint distress signal from Alara's home planet reached his ears. Ethan had always been fascinated by the mysteries of the cosmos, spending countless hours studying the stars and dreaming of the vast, unexplored realms that lay beyond his humble abode. As an accomplished engineer and inventor, he had even built his own small spacecraft, a labor of love that he used to explore the nearby star systems. So when the unfamiliar transmission crackled to life on his communication array, Ethan's curiosity was immediately piqued. The message, spoken in an alien tongue, carried an unmistakable tone of desperation, and Ethan couldn't help but feel a twinge of concern for the unknown civilization that had sent it. Quickly, he set to work, his nimble fingers flying across the control panels as he tried to decipher the transmission. As the message unfolded before him, Ethan's eyes widened with a growing sense of alarm. The Xandarian people, it seemed, were facing a grave threat, an invasion by a ruthless alien empire known as the Kraxan. Ethan's heart sank as he listened to Alara's plea for help, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and hopelessness. He could almost feel the weight of her words, the crushing sense of powerlessness that had driven her to reach out across the vastness of space, searching for any glimmer of aid. For a moment, Ethan was torn. He knew that the journey to Alara's homeworld would be perilous, and that he risked everything by venturing into the unknown. But as he listened to the recording once more, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had to act, that he couldn't simply ignore the cries of a people in desperate need. Steeling his resolve, Ethan began to make preparations for his journey. He pored over star charts, plotting the most direct route to the Xandarian system, all the while making adjustments to his small spacecraft, ensuring that it was equipped to withstand the rigors of interstellar travel. As he worked, Ethan couldn't help but wonder about the Xandarians, their culture, their technology, and the nature of the threat they faced. He knew that he was venturing into uncharted territory, both literally and figuratively, but the thought of being able to make a difference, to help a people in their time of greatest need, filled him with a sense of purpose that he had never known before. Finally, after weeks of meticulous planning and preparation, Ethan's spacecraft was ready. With a deep breath, he sealed the hatch, the whir of the engines filling the air as his craft lifted off the launch pad and soared into the vastness of space. As he navigated through the treacherous hyperspace lanes, Ethan couldn't help but feel a mixture of apprehension and determination. He knew that he was embarking on a perilous journey, one that could cost him everything. But the image of Alara's anguished face, the desperation in her voice, was seared into his mind, a constant reminder of the importance of his mission. With each passing day, Ethan's resolve only grew stronger. He would not turn back, not when the lives of an entire civilization hung in the balance. He would do whatever it took to reach the Xandarian homeworld, to find Alara, and offer her the help she so desperately needed. As his spacecraft hurtled through the void, Ethan couldn't help but wonder what awaited him on the other side. Would he be able to make a difference, or would he too be powerless against the might of the Kraxan Empire? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain. Ethan was determined to try, no matter the cost. After weeks of navigating treacherous hyperspace lanes and evading Kraxan patrols, Ethan's small spacecraft finally approached the war-torn Xandarian homeworld. As he maneuvered his craft through the debris-filled skies, his heart sank at the sight that unfolded before him. The once vibrant planet, a shimmering orb teeming with life, now lay ravaged and scarred. Entire cities had been reduced to rubble, their towering spires toppled and crumbling. Ethan could see the Kraxan warships hovering ominously over the devastated landscape, their imposing presence a constant reminder of the Xandarians' dire situation. Gripping the controls of his spacecraft, Ethan's mind raced as he searched for a safe place to land. He knew that the Kraxan would be on high alert, their advanced sensors scanning the skies for any signs of resistance or foreign intervention. Carefully, he guided his craft towards a hidden landing site, one that seemed to have been overlooked by the invaders. As his spacecraft touched down, Ethan could feel his heart pounding in his chest. This was it, the moment of truth. He had traveled across the galaxy, risking everything to answer Alara's desperate plea for help. But now, as he prepared to step out into the devastated landscape, he couldn't help but wonder if he was truly prepared for what lay ahead. Steeling his nerves, Ethan opened the hatch and emerged into the eerie silence of the Xandarian city. The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke and the stench of decay, a constant reminder of the horrors that had befallen this once thriving world. Ethan had barely taken a few steps when he was suddenly confronted by a group of Xandarian resistance fighters, their weapons raised in a defensive posture. Their eyes were narrowed with suspicion, and Ethan could see the fear and desperation etched onto their faces. Before they could react, however, a figure emerged from the shadows. A young woman, her eyes widening with a mixture of disbelief and hope. It was Alara, the one who had sent the distress signal that had led Ethan to this ravaged planet. Alara's gaze locked with Ethan's, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. The Xendarian resistance fighters, sensing the shift in Alara's demeanor, slowly lowered their weapons, their eyes filled with a newfound sense of hope. "You came," Alara whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "I never dared to believe that anyone would hear our plea for help." Ethan stepped forward, his expression a mix of determination and compassion. "I couldn't ignore your call for aid," he said, his voice steady and resolute. "I'm here to help, in whatever way I can." Alara's eyes welled with tears, and she reached out to grasp Ethan's hands, her grip tight and unwavering. "Thank you," she said, her words carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken prayers. "Our people are suffering, and we have nowhere left to turn. The Kraxen have crushed us under their relentless assault, and we are powerless to stop them." Ethan nodded, his expression hardening with a newfound sense of purpose. "Then tell me what I can do," he said, his gaze sweeping across the assembled resistance fighters. "I'm ready to help you fight for your freedom." As Alara began to explain the dire situation facing her people, Ethan listened intently, his mind racing with a multitude of strategies and tactics. He knew that the odds were stacked against them, that the Kraxen's technological superiority and numerical advantage would be a formidable challenge. But Ethan also knew that he couldn't simply turn his back on the Xendarians, not when they had placed their last, desperate hope in him. He had come too far, risked too much, to simply abandon them now. With a renewed sense of determination, Ethan began to formulate a plan, his voice low and steady as he outlined his strategy to the resistance fighters. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the Xendarians' faces lit up with a glimmer of hope, a faint but unmistakable sign that their fight for freedom was not yet lost. As Ethan stepped out of his small spacecraft, he was immediately confronted by a group of Xendarian resistance fighters, their weapons raised in a defensive posture. Their eyes were narrowed with suspicion, and Ethan could sense the palpable tension in the air. But before the Xendarians could react, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Alara, the young woman whose desperate plea for help had led Ethan on this perilous journey. Her eyes widened with a mixture of disbelief and hope as she recognized the human standing before her. Overcome with a surge of gratitude, Alara quickly stepped forward, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. "Wait," she called out, her voice cutting through the tense silence. "This is the one who answered our call for aid." The Xendarian resistance fighters hesitated, their weapons still raised, but the shift in Alara's demeanor seemed to have a calming effect on them. Slowly, they lowered their guns, their eyes filled with a newfound sense of hope. Alara turned to Ethan, her expression a mix of awe and relief. "You came," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "I never dared to believe that anyone would hear our cry for help." Ethan nodded, his own expression equally serious. "I couldn't ignore your message," he said, his gaze steadfast and unwavering. "I'm here to help, in whatever way I can." Alara's eyes brimmed with tears, and she reached out to grasp Ethan's hands, her grip tight and unwavering. "Thank you," she said, her words carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken prayers. "Our people are suffering, and we have nowhere left to turn. The Kraxen have crushed us under their relentless assault, and we are powerless to stop them." Ethan's expression hardened with a newfound sense of purpose. "Then tell me what I can do," he said, his gaze sweeping across the assembled resistance fighters. "I'm ready to help you fight for your freedom." As Alara began to explain the dire situation facing her people, Ethan listened intently, his mind racing with a multitude of strategies and tactics. He knew that the odds were stacked against them, that the Kraxen's technological superiority and numerical advantage would be a formidable challenge. But Ethan also knew that he couldn't simply turn his back on the Xandarians, not when they had placed their last, desperate hope in him. He had come too far, risked too much, to simply abandon them now. With a renewed sense of determination, Ethan began to formulate a plan, his voice low and steady as he outlined his strategy to the resistance fighters. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the Xandarians' faces lit up with a glimmer of hope, a faint but unmistakable sign that their fight for freedom was not yet lost. As the group huddled together, poring over maps and discussing the logistics of their daring mission, Ethan couldn't help but admire the resilience and courage of the Xandarian people. Despite the overwhelming odds, they had never given up, their unwavering spirit a testament to the unbreakable will of a civilization that refused to be crushed under the boot of oppression. Ethan knew that the path ahead would be perilous, that the risk of failure was ever present. But as he looked into Alara's eyes, he saw a reflection of his own determination, a burning desire to reclaim their freedom, no matter the cost. With a nod, Ethan joined the Xandarian resistance fighters, his small but powerful spacecraft serving as the linchpin of their daring plan. Together, they would strike at the heart of the Kraxan occupation, targeting the invaders' command center in the capital city. It would be a desperate gamble, a high-stakes gamble that could very well decide the fate of the Xandarian people. But Ethan was ready, his resolve strengthened by the knowledge that he had come too far to turn back now. As the group made their final preparations, Ethan couldn't help but wonder what the future held. Would they succeed in their mission, or would they too be crushed under the might of the Kraxan Empire? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain: Ethan was determined to fight, to do whatever it took to help the Xandarians reclaim their freedom. Ethan's arrival on the war-torn Xandarian homeworld had sparked a new wave of resistance among the beleaguered people. Together with Alara and the other brave Xandarian fighters, he had formulated a daring plan to strike at the heart of the Kraxan occupation, a bold assault on the invaders' command center in the capital city. As the group made their final preparations, the tension in the air was palpable. They knew that the odds were stacked against them, that the Kraxan's superior technology and overwhelming numbers would make their mission a perilous one. But with Ethan's expertise and the Xandarians' intimate knowledge of their homeworld, they were determined to give it their all. When the time came, the group moved with precision and urgency, their movements cloaked by the cover of darkness. Ethan's small spacecraft led the way, its advanced sensors and weapons systems providing the Xandarian resistance fighters with a crucial advantage as they navigated the debris-filled streets. As they approached the Kraxan's heavily fortified command center, the air erupted with the sound of blaster fire and the thunderous explosions of artillery. The Xandarians engaged the Kraxan troops on the ground, their weapons and tactics honed by years of living under the oppressive rule of the invaders. Ethan, meanwhile, maneuvered his spacecraft with deft precision, raining down a barrage of laser fire upon the Kraxan's defenses. His advanced weapons systems, combined with the Xandarians' local knowledge, proved to be a formidable combination, slowly but surely pushing the Kraxan forces back. The battle raged on, with both sides fighting with a fierce determination that only fueled the intensity of the conflict. Ethan, his eyes narrowed with concentration, unleashed a series of devastating attacks, targeting the Kraxan's command and control infrastructure. As the Xandarian resistance fighters pushed deeper into the city, they began to gain the upper hand, their renewed sense of purpose and hope driving them forward. Alara, her once fading powers surging back to life, fought alongside Ethan with a newfound vigor, her resolve hardened by the knowledge that the fate of her people rested on the outcome of this pivotal battle. Together, they fought with a ferocity that took the Kraxan invaders by surprise. Ethan's advanced technology, combined with the Xandarians' intimate understanding of their homeworld, proved to be a potent combination, slowly but surely chipping away at the Kraxan's defenses. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn in the Xandarians' favor. The Kraxan forces, once so confident in their superior might, found themselves beleaguered and outmaneuvered, their carefully laid plans unraveling before their eyes. Ethan, his spacecraft now dangerously low on fuel and ammunition, continued to provide air support, his every move calculated and precise. He knew that the Xendarians were counting on him, that their very survival depended on his ability to hold the line. With each passing moment, the Xendarian resistance fighters gained ground, their determination fueling their every step. Alara, her eyes shining with a mixture of hope and resolve, led her comrades forward, her powers now fully unlocked as she channeled the very essence of her homeworld. As the Kraxen's defenses crumbled, the capital city erupted into pandemonium. The invaders, once so assured of their victory, now found themselves in a desperate scramble to evacuate, their retreat marked by a series of chaotic and disorganized skirmishes. In the midst of the chaos, Ethan and the Xendarian resistance fighters pressed their advantage, their coordinated assault slowly but surely pushing the Kraxen forces back. It was a hard-fought battle, a grueling test of endurance and resilience, but as the sun began to rise over the battered city, the Xendarians knew that they had finally emerged victorious. The Kraxen, their once formidable presence now reduced to a disorganized retreat, had been beaten back, their grip on the Xendarian homeworld finally broken. As the Xendarian people began to emerge from their hiding places, their faces lit up with a mixture of relief, joy, and a renewed sense of pride. And at the center of it all stood Ethan, his small spacecraft battered but still airborne, a testament to the humans' unwavering determination and the power of hope to overcome even the most daunting of odds. As the battle for the Xendarian capital raged on, Ethan and the resistance fighters began to slowly but surely gain the upper hand. The humans' advanced technology and tactical expertise, combined with the Xendarians' intimate knowledge of their homeworld, proved to be a formidable combination against the Kraxen invaders. Alara, her once fading powers surging back to life, fought alongside Ethan with a renewed vigor, her resolve hardened by the knowledge that the fate of her people rested on the outcome of this pivotal battle. The young Xendarian woman, her eyes alight with a fierce determination, channeled the very essence of her homeworld, her abilities amplified by the sheer force of her will. Together, they pushed back against the Kraxen forces, their coordinated assault slowly but surely chipping away at the invaders' defenses. Ethan's spacecraft, its arsenal of advanced weaponry unleashed with deadly precision, provided crucial air support, raining down a devastating barrage of laser fire upon the Kraxen's command posts and troop concentrations. On the ground, the Xendarian resistance fighters fought with a ferocity that caught the Kraxen invaders off guard. Their knowledge of the terrain, their intimate familiarity with the city's labyrinthine alleyways and hidden passages, allowed them to outmaneuver and outflank the enemy, striking with devastating effect. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn in the Xendarians' favor. The Kraxen forces, once so confident in their superior might, found themselves beleaguered and outmaneuvered, their carefully laid plans unraveling before their eyes. Ethan, his spacecraft now dangerously low on fuel and ammunition, continued to provide air support, his every move calculated and precise. He knew that the Xendarians were counting on him, that their very survival depended on his ability to hold the line. Alara, her powers now fully unlocked, fought alongside her comrades with a newfound sense of purpose. She could feel the energy of her homeworld coursing through her veins, empowering her with the strength and resilience needed to push back against the Kraxen's relentless onslaught. As the Kraxen's defenses crumbled, the capital city erupted into pandemonium. The invaders, once so assured of their victory, now found themselves in a desperate scramble to evacuate, their retreat marked by a series of chaotic and disorganized skirmishes. In the midst of the chaos, Ethan and the Xendarian resistance fighters pressed their advantage, their coordinated assault slowly but surely pushing the Kraxen forces back. It was a hard-fought battle, a grueling test of endurance and resilience, but as the sun began to rise over the battered city, the Xendarians knew that they had finally emerged victorious. The Kraxen, Their once formidable presence, now reduced to a disorganized retreat, had been beaten back, their grip on the Xandarian homeworld finally broken. As the Xandarian people began to emerge from their hiding places, their faces lit up with a mixture of relief, joy, and a renewed sense of pride. Alara, her eyes shining with tears of gratitude, turned to Ethan, her heart swelling with a profound admiration for the human who had risked everything to come to their aid. She marveled at his unwavering determination, his willingness to put everything on the line to help her people in their hour of greatest need. In that moment, Alara knew that she would forever be indebted to Ethan, that his selfless actions had not only saved her world, but had also ignited a spark of hope that had been all but extinguished. As she embraced the human, her gratitude overflowing, she knew that this was just the beginning, that the Xandarians and their new human ally would work together to rebuild, to heal the wounds of war, and to forge a brighter future for their people. The battle for Xandaria might have been won, but the true test of their resilience and strength had only just begun. With Ethan at their side, the Xandarians were determined to rise from the ashes of their devastation, to reclaim their place in the galaxy, and to never again feel powerless in the face of such overwhelming adversity. With the Kraxan invaders finally defeated, the Xandarian people erupted into a joyous celebration, their once somber faces now alight with a renewed sense of hope and triumph. The streets, once ravaged by the relentless assault of the alien conquerors, now echoed with the sounds of laughter, song, and the grateful embraces of families reunited. At the heart of this celebration stood Alara, her eyes shining with tears of joy and admiration as she gazed upon the human who had risked everything to come to their aid. Ethan, his own expression a mix of exhaustion and a profound sense of satisfaction, found himself surrounded by a sea of grateful Xandarians, their hands reaching out to clasp his, their voices raised in a chorus of heartfelt gratitude. Alara, unable to contain her emotions, stepped forward and enveloped Ethan in a warm embrace, her body trembling with a mixture of relief and disbelief. "You came," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You came when we had lost all hope, when we felt utterly powerless against the Kraxan's might." Ethan, his own heart swelling with a sense of purpose and belonging, returned the embrace, his grip gentle but firm. "I had to," he replied, his voice low and steady. "I couldn't ignore your plea for help, not when the lives of an entire civilization hung in the balance." As the two pulled apart, Alara's gaze was filled with a newfound respect and admiration. "You risked everything to come to our aid," she said, her eyes shining with unused tears. "You are a true hero, Ethan, and the Xandarian people will forever be in your debt." Ethan shook his head, a humble smile playing on his lips. "I'm no hero," he said. "I simply did what I felt was right, what any decent person would have done in my place." The Xandarian people, their spirits lifted by the human's selfless actions, erupted into a renewed round of cheers and applause. They knew that without Ethan's intervention, their world would have been lost, their very way of life extinguished under the crushing weight of the Kraxan's oppressive rule. As the initial euphoria began to subside, Alara turned to Ethan, her expression serious but resolute. "Now that the battle is won, we must begin the long process of rebuilding," she said, her gaze sweeping across the devastated landscape. "Our cities lie in ruins, our people scattered and broken. But with your help, I know that we can emerge from this darkness stronger than ever before." Ethan nodded, his own expression mirroring Alara's determination. "Whatever you need, I'm here to help," he said, his words carrying the weight of a solemn promise. "This is just the beginning of our journey together, Alara. We will work side by side to heal the wounds of war and to forge a brighter future for your people." The young Xandarian woman reached out and grasped Ethan's hand, her grip firm and unwavering. "Then let us begin," she said, her voice laced with a newfound sense of purpose. "Together we will rebuild, we will reclaim our rightful place in the galaxy, and we will never again feel powerless in the face of adversity." As the Xandarian people set to work, their energy and enthusiasm fueled by the knowledge that they had a powerful ally in Ethan. The human couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and belonging that he had never experienced before. This was his home now, a world that had once been so foreign and distant, but now felt like a place where he truly belonged. Ethan knew that the road ahead would not be an easy one, that the Xandarians would face many challenges as they worked to rebuild their shattered world. But he was determined to be by their side every step of the way, to lend his strength, his expertise, and his unwavering support as they embarked on this new chapter of their shared history. In the end, the story of Alara and Ethan, the young Xandarian woman and the human who had come to her aid, would become the stuff of legend, a testament to the power of compassion, courage, and the unbreakable bonds that can form between the most unlikely of allies. And as the Xandarian people looked to the future, they knew that with Ethan by their side, their world would never again feel powerless in the face of adversity.